Mr. Moderator, I want to begin first by acknowledging with deep sadness and sorrow all the victims of all conflicts around the world as we gather here today. Victims whose only fault is to be alive at a time when tyranny and impunity reign supreme, while defense of the vulnerable is secondary to the bottom line and the needs of the few. We cannot have any conversation here this week without formally recognizing the unnecessary loss of lives of innocent men, women, and children. The prevailing conflicts have both direct and indirect impacts to countries where conflicts are perpetrated and beyond, given the interlinkages of the global value and supply chain. Energy, food, industry, and finance are combining yet another perfect storm for developing countries, especially in Africa. Higher fuel and energy prices are being felt across many parts of the continent, hitting the poorest hard. Food production due to disruption in fertilizer means higher prices and induced shortages. Trade distortions due to slowdown in exports, reduced export earnings affect the balance of trade, foreign currency earnings, which are critical for funding national budgets. As countries, especially in Africa, deal with this constrained fiscal space, these conflicts will only deepen the fiscal challenges being experienced, leading to a worsening debt situation and a diversion of resources for development. Mr. Moderator, as we've discussed and debated in this chamber on several occasions and has been reiterated this morning and earlier today, the international financial architecture is not designed to address the challenges of yesterday, today, and let alone tomorrow. We need to start thinking about another round of debt suspension, relief, increasing access to grant financing, and possibly even the suspension of use of credit ratings on countries whose outlook is being measured by factors and actions that they are not involved in. Risk biases from externalized shocks should not compromise the ratings of African countries. The debt crisis in Africa, with a debt stock of around $1.2 trillion US, a quarter of its GDP being allocated to external debt servicing, high cost of international capital, as has been mentioned, is creating an unsustainable domestic debt balloon, both in volume and in cost. More African countries are allocating their constrained fiscal space to debt servicing than to social sectors, while ODA cuts are being replaced with increased military spending in developed countries. African countries cannot continue to bear the brunt of the medium and long-term impacts of these conflicts and the inability of the international financial architecture to provide adequate interventions. Mr. Moderator, the Sevilla Compromiso put forward a set of reforms to reform international tax cooperation, advancing reforming of the international debt architecture, addressing systemic issues such as regulating credit rating agencies, amongst others. These governance proposals were advanced by the Africa Group, the Alliance of Small Island States. But there is a difference between having governance frameworks as per the Compromiso and the accountability of the agents tasked with implementing and respecting these frameworks. We are witnessing the systemic and deliberate erosion of international governance frameworks on a daily basis. It puts us to task to what we mean when we talk about actions to strengthen global economic governance, or what principles should guide the evolution of regulatory and supervisory cooperation to address emerging systemic risks. Without accountability, frameworks will be challenged. As we observed from the UN General Assembly when the UN General Assembly adopted the landmark resolution spearheaded by Ghana declaring the transatlantic slave trade the gravest crime against humanity. 123 countries voted in favor, 3 against, 52 abstained. We can no longer talk about reform. We need to up the ante, and the Africa Group yet again is showing why it is at the heart of rulemaking. Moderator, as I conclude, I would encourage this House to listen to a famous song, War, by The Temptations and later Edwin Starr, that says it is good for absolutely nothing. Thank you.